In this quick tip, I'll be showing you how to import Revit models into Autodesk Viz or 3D Studio Max. So I'm here in Revit, and you need to be in a 3D view in Revit, so you can get a whole view of the model, and then you export it out as an AutoCAD DWG format. So I can go under File Export, and it can be exported out in whatever version of AutoCAD you're used to working with. It just has to be the DWG file format. The native Revit file format will not open in Viz or 3D Studio Max. So I'm just saving this out. And after I save that drawing in Revit, I can now open 3D Studio Max and use what's called the File Link Manager to bring that file in. So here I'm opening up Max. And the way to bring in any AutoCAD drawing is go through the File Link Manager. So I'm going to select that, and I'm going to click on File here, and just navigate out to that AutoCAD drawing that I exported out of Revit. Open him up. And as I go under presets here, notice in 3D Studio Max and also in Viz, there's a Revit preset. And it just has a lot of settings in here that bring the objects in, and separate CAD solids basically. Curve steps, there's other options. If you have lights and cameras in Revit, you can bring those in. But typically just use all the defaults here. And it makes it nice because this is a preset that's already set up in 3D Studio Max, so I'm not going to make any changes there. I go back to Attach here and click on Rescale, make sure the incoming file units are in inches, and then just click on Attach this file. And here you may get this error. Typically not a problem. With some versions, older versions of Revit, some of the 3D models may not come in, but typically you just hit yes there and you'll get through that part of the function there. Otherwise you just need to download an object enabler off of Autodesk website. Well, now when I close out of here, I've linked that model now into 3D Studio Max. And at any time I can go back through the File Link Manager and reload that Revit model back in here. So if changes were made back in Revit, I would just do that export again out to the DWG format and then reload it in here. And there's settings in that File Link Manager that allow you to retain any materials you've added to your objects here in Max so you don't lose them. I just hit H on my keyboard, and it just shows how all the different objects from Revit are brought into 3D Studio Max. And this is all identical in Autodesk Viz. And Viz is just the architectural version of Max. It doesn't contain Character Studio and particle systems, so it's just kind of a light version of Max. So you can see the furniture, floors, doors, windows, all the separate objects in Revit come in as separate objects. And so what's nice, like if you look at this door, I can get to the frame, the mullion, the panels, the different parts of that door. I can put separate materials on here in Max. And if I just kind of zoom into the view a little bit, now I'm inside the model and I can do an interior rendering. Let's say I have this furniture here. So basically the steps once you have your model imported from Revit is adding materials and lighting and then rendering out. So I'm just going to go to my material editor. And there's several different types of materials to work from. I'm just going to open the default material library that comes with Max and Viz. And there's several different types of preset materials that you can use. I'm going to go under woods and plastics. You can also make your own materials from scratch. And materials that were applied in Revit will also be imported into Max here. So adding this material here, I can just click and drag from my material editor and put it right on my object. And then I can add lighting. Here I have a lot of standard lights. I have photometric lighting I can use. There's also a daylight system for exterior renderings. If I go under my Create menu here, Create drop down under the daylight system. So the process is to import the model from Revit, add materials and lights, and then you can render and also add animations. So if you have any more questions,